It is the start of a brand new season for the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. And we start where we finished 2022, in Yanqing, just outside the Chinese capital, Beijing. The 2022 Winter Olympic venue welcomes the World Cup season opener. Well, good morning, everybody, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. Morning, afternoon, evening. Oh my goodness, it's early. Either way, this track is going to provide plenty of entertainment. The first built since Calgary, with a Kreisel in it, and the action starts very early. Short, fairly steep start area, narrows from both sides. Luge comes in on the left. Corner one, really critical here, because it leads into two, and two is a place where you lose a lot of time if you tap on the right-hand side. Sweeping into the left-hander at 3, right-hander at 4. These are near 180-degree omega curves. Then into the left-hander at 5. Try and avoid the tap on the right going in. And then corner 6, and again another critical area because you go steep uphill through this chicane, double cat tap there, into corner 7, into corner 9 rather, and then 10. And then again, uphill into the entrance of the Kreisel. It's a long, open Kreisel. You're still looking way above your head, though, to look for the exit. And then starting to pick up speed again down through corner 12. Uphill again into 13. Big left-hander. Little jump over 14, down the ditch, up into 15, and corner 16, the final corner. And then it's still not over. You can easily break loose out of 16 and skid all the way across the line. So it was a very demanding track in the Winter Games, not least because everybody had had very little time on it, apart from the Chinese athletes, and of course they were locked down at home in China for 2 entire years. They didn't see international competition from the moment COVID struck until the Winter Games began. So it was a very different time for them. Well, there are Francesco Friedrich too. Torsten Marks moving the sled as we get ready for the first of our 2-man races of the season. This is a double 4-man weekend because the track in Sigulda, where we'll go in the middle of the season in January, is a 2-man only track effectively, and so that'll be a double 2-man weekend. So you've got to make up for the lack of 4-man racing, and this is where we will do it. So on our start list we have 11 sleds. There are no women's sleds in China. The Women's World Cup will start in 3 weeks' time at La Plagne in France. But we start with Sun Kai-chi of China, Jakobs Kalender and Johannes Lochner, the world champion. And then to round out the field in the first and probably likely the second heat will be our Olympic champion, Francesco Friedrich. The 2023-24 BMW IBSF 2-man bobsleigh World Cup season starts here. China's Sun Kai-chi and Heng Sheng, his brakeman, ready to get us underway. Finished in 14th place in the Winter Games, and it's only the 9th 2-man World Cup start of Sun's career. Only the 4th 2-man World Cup race for Chen, his brakeman. Nice rise in 2. Avoids the tap into 3. Nice and a little skiddy at the back. Pretty straight down into corner 4. And then again in this series of looping corners. There comes the junior start in before you get to 6. And then uphill through the chicane. Avoid the taps, and he does. Should know this place inside out. Up to the Kreisel. Again, climbing to the entrance of the Kreisel. This 360-degree whip around, you come out underneath where it came in. It's a full 360 corner. And then these fast turns at the bottom of the track. Fraught with danger, a little skid there as you went airborne. 2-man sleds get very light, just avoids a tap on the wall, 60.16. Okay, well, there's the loosener for everybody else to look at. Let's have a quick little squiz as we get ready for our replay. In the Winter Games in two-man, he finished 14th, and his best was a 59.99, and his first was a 60.25, so there you go, a little tap on the way out. So many of those early rock and rolling corners, very tricky, and then dropping down into the ditch. Some real elevation changes on this track. 3 distinct uphill sections. And right at the end... yeah, I didn't get that right. So next up is Jēkabs Kalender, the 21-year-old former rower from Latvia, with Dovs Kaufmans behind him. Dovs has been a driver as well, the brakeman. Under 23 Junior World Championship gold in 2020, and was driving all the way through last season. Little skid, 900s back. They had a pretty decent start. This is all about experience and knowledge of the track, and Kalender doesn't have that. Tap, tap. This is going to cost him. They started 5:12, so a little behind their Chinese rivals. Second fastest speed. Was out to 900s back, bringing the gap back down. Still not as quick as the Chinese sled. But if he can be clean down here at the bottom, he's got a chance of bringing it back. There's the speed from the sled. The BTC sled's always quick, just avoids the rubs. 700s back. So 300s back at the start, only 700s back at the bottom. A 60.23 run. Well, when you bear in mind that Kalender did not compete here in the games, it's the first time he's seen this track, and it hasn't been endless weeks of extensive prep. It's been the standard one training week last week and half a dozen training runs this week, and there's your 700s right there. Long skid as well, tapping on the way into the Kreisel, and down at the bottom of the track, just climbing the wall on the exit. Saw so much of that in the Winter Games. All right, so Latvia's new young talent. And this is Germany's young talent. Johannes Lochner, 33 years of age, the World and World Cup two-man champion from last year. Georg Fleischhauer, 25-year-old former 400-meter hurdler. And there was a lot of question about whether winning the two-man World Championship in St. Moritz against a healthy Friedrich would see Lochner retire. Apparently not. So let's see what they can produce. 5:09 at the fast start. 4:93 is the record. 5:03. So 600s up on Sun Kai-chi. Hansen did race here in the Winter Games, took the silver medal in the two-man. Just avoids the wall there. He spent last year getting increasingly fluent in the two-man sled. Sort of for a few years really began to think of him as a four-man expert or specialist. And actually his early career was pretty good in two-man as well. This is neat and tidy stuff from Johannes Lochner. 7/10 up. Track record here is a 58.99. Oh, big skid at the bottom. 59.18. Matthias Höpfner. Another former German slider, recruited into their coaching program years ago. He really was a two-man exponent as well. So Fleischhauer didn't compete in the games. He joined Hansi 2 seasons ago. It was a revelation when he got into the back of the sled. Look at the quads on him. Look at the extension there. That power step getting into the sled. And then dropping the feet in around his driver and burying himself in the back of the sled. Again, climbing the wall on the exit of the corner 16 there. Hansi on the right, Georg on the left. Okay, so that is the new benchmark. Let's see where we go with Simon Friedli and Luca Rolli. 40th World Cup start for Simon Friedli in two-man. He's 26th as a driver. He was a brakeman before. Only the 4th two-man World Cup for Luca. He's had 9 four-man starts and began his career pushing for Timo Röner. 5:08, only 500s off Lochner and Fleischauer. That's a good getaway from Simon Friedli. Strong on the front handles. Finished in 80th place in the Winter Games here in February 22. I think it feels a very different experience for the athletes, because 2022 was, certainly in China, not even remotely out of COVID. Everybody was extremely locked down. Nothing other than hotel and track. Oh, little skid. Second best speed, so he's behind Lochner but ahead of Sun Kai-chi. Not too far ahead of Sun at the moment. Still second best speed from the Swiss sled. Nice exit across the line. 0.91 back, 60.09. Rico Peter there with the iPad filming the run. And Rico was, of course, the driver for Simon Friedli, or Simon Friedli was the brakeman for Rico Peter for a number of successful years. Competed together in the Winter Games in Pyeongchang in 2018. So Friedli with a couple of injuries over the last couple of seasons. Hope to begin this year strong and stay strong. We're missing Brad Hall from the race. In fact, from the weekend. Brad's got a back injury, so the Great Britain sled not here. Let's take a look then out of the final corner. Keeps it off the wall. That's a pretty decent exit from Friedli. Interesting to see the place in World Cup spec rather than Olympic spec. Next up, Li Chunjian of China, 27-year-old driver with his 25-year-old brakeman Wu Qingxi. And Wu was originally the brakeman for Sun Kai-chi, pushed Sun in the Olympic Games here. Li finished in 22nd place. 5:10, that's a pretty decent getaway. Their teammate started 5:09. Ooh, little tap. Now, of course, not only did the Chinese spend 2 years unable to travel outside their own country, so essentially sliding only here, but this is their training ground as well. So after the Games, pre-season last year, post-season last year, pre-season this year as well, they've spent plenty of time on the track. Third best speed for Li. At the moment, ahead of Sun, and in fact, at the moment, ahead of Simon Friedli. The speed is there as well. Little skid there as he went over the crest and whipped it off 16. 0.91 back. So 60.09, tied to the 100th with Simon Friedli. As Friedli's last few corners just kept his head alongside the Chinese rather than behind him. So fourth best start. Pretty well rehearsed pair. Wu gets in and disappears through the floor of the sled. Exactly what you hope for. Now, what was this? Yeah, little tap there as they drop down from 13 to 14, and then long skids again out of 16, out of 15 rather. So that won't help them. So halfway point of our field is Cedric Follador, but it's Hansi Lochner who leads by 9/10. Cedric Follador turns 29 tomorrow, another race day, but in four-man. Dominic Huschmidt, his 25-year-old brakeman, only his second two-man World Cup for Dominic. Cedric Follador, only his 8th two-man World Cup. He is the newer of the Swiss drivers, newest of the Swiss drivers in terms of World Cup. Ooh, tiny tap there. And again, Follador, this is his first time at the track. .518, they're the 6th sled out, and that was the 6th fastest start, in 6th place at the moment, but look at the speed as he gets to the Kreisel. Now this should pick up Jacob's calendar, and let's see, Sun Kai-chi may be in trouble as well. What about Seaman Friedley, his teammate? Not going to get to him, I don't think. Second best speed at the bottom. And a double tap, it comes out of corner 16, 0.87 back. That makes him 2nd place. Rico Friedley was giving it, oh yeah, that's okay. 2nd place for Cedric Follador. So we now have the last 3 sleds covered by 0.04 of a second. So 60.09 for Seaman Friedley and Lee Chun-jan. And then a 60.05 for Cedric Follador. And definitely things to tie up. See a little tap there, throws you sideways, and he's steering the skid. And then as they come down, just a little run on the wall as well. Well, that's put the cat among the pigeons, hasn't it? Second only to Hansi Lochner with 5 to go. Next up for Italy, Patrick Baumgartner, his 35th two-man World Cup race. The Carabinieri from Pfalzen in the Südtirol. So the northwest corner of Italy, rather than the northeast. Milan Cortina. 35th two-man World Cup, 34-man World Cups as well. But Robert Metier, his 24-year-old brakeman, in only his 8th two-man World Cup start. They race together here in the two-man Winter Games to 21st place. 5:50 getaway. Well, that's quicker than Follador by 300s, and if he comes down 300s quicker than Follador all the way, he'll be doing very well. Like Cedric Follador, 6th best start, 6th best at the moment as they go by the Junior Luge start. Keeping it nice and tidy. Up to the Kreisel we go. 3rd best speed. Excellent stuff from the young Italian. Now can he build on this? He's still in 6th place on the splits. Little drift out to the wall on the exit. Speed is still good though. 7/100s back. This is looking like 6th place ahead of Jacob's calendar. Still 3rd best speed. Nice exit and across the line. 0.91 back up to 3rd place. Tied with Lee of China and Seaman Friedley. So 60.09 is the popular kids. Time down, everybody. Well, that's a pretty decent looking run from Patrick Baumgartner and Robert Metier. Robert with 2 movements to dive into the sled or to get his arms in. Little tap there early on. That was out of 2 into 3. And then again, dropping down steeply here. You need to avoid that little rub if you can. But he is in a 3-way tie for 3rd. Looks pretty happy with that run. Well, from one Swiss to the next duo, Mickey Vogt and Sandro Mikkel. Vogt 25, Mikkel 27. Finished just off the podium. 4th place here in the Winter Games 2022. wasn't as close as he would like to have been to Christoph Hafer of Germany. Germany swept the podium in the games. Friedrich, Lochner and Hafer. Though Mickey Vogt was the best of the rest of the world. 5:07, a very decent start here. Speed is good. Second best at the moment to Hansi Lochner, who outstarted him by 400ths. He's only 1100ths back. Still second best speed. 1:18.4, long skid though off the Kreisel. Hansi's wasn't as big, still second best speed. 3200ths back. He should be a decent slice ahead of Cedric Follador. He'll want to be ahead of his teammate. 4500ths, 59.63. So only 2 sub-60 runs. A little smile there from the coaches for Mickey Vogt and Sandro Mikkel. Mickey Vogt now the only folks competing. 0-7. That's all the brakeman wants to know. What was the start? 0-7, 0-7. Long skid. You watch the runner tips, you see he didn't steer out of that, just waited for it to come back. And here again, that was a pretty clean exit, wasn't it? That's out of 13, down into 14 and then back uphill, but he's thinking of those skids. So Mickey Vogt second, Cedric Follador third. Next up, Emil Tsipulis and Mats Miknes for Latvia. 17th in the games here in February 2022. Emils, the 28-year-old in his 12th two-man World Cup. Made his debut in Sigulda in Latvia in November 2020. Mats Miknes, his 50th two-man World Cup start. Whoa! And a little wriggle of the runners to try and avoid the tap on the wall as it narrowed. Afraid, for all his experiences, Mats got in there, bumped the sled loose, skid out of 2. Trying to keep it clean, out of corner 6, through the chicane. 9-10. But again, coming into the Kreisel on the wrong side, little low, trying to keep the line even all the way through. It's such a long Kreisel. Wow, and a monster skid on the exit. 7th best speed from the second fastest start. He's drifting away to 3rd at the moment ahead of Cedric Follador. 9th best speed. Is he going to keep it alive to the line? 8th place. Yeah. There's that speed. It was low all the way from those early skids, and eventually it came to haunt him. So they started 5:05, second fastest start, but then almost hit the wall, and it's a 60.18 slide. Well, watch Mads Miknes in the back, gets in. In fact, Tsipulis was slow getting in as well, did not have his hands on the D-rings. So he needs to be in and down and in control of the sled earlier. And that was the exit of the Kreisel there, that big long skid, wagging the runners to check the slide. Now, disappointing first heat. One more run to try and sort it all out again in his head. And then it'll be 4-man on Saturday and Sunday. To go in the first heat of the season. And it's Markus Treichel, 30-year-old Austrian, with his 26-year-old brakeman Christian Huber. Christian started his career with Benny Meyer. 49th two-man World Cup race for Markus Treichel, former luge slider. In and down neat and tidily, 5:19. Not a quick getaway, but they keep all their speed on board. So Markus 26th in the Winter Games here in 22. Neat and tidy with a little tail end skid there. Looks like the line wasn't quite right, and he was just trying to hold the sled down a little, get the nose to go where you want. The tail doesn't always follow. 7th best speed, 10th at the start. He remains in 10th place of our 10 sleds, and the biggest skid we've seen so far. Ninth best speed. This is going to be the tail of the field for Marcus Treichel. 60.31. Wolfgang Stampfer shakes his head. And Marcus Treichel shakes his head as well. Well, the load was good. Speed at the start wasn't exceptional. And errors early on really cost you in this place. Get corner 2 wrong, you want to park up. He's so experienced in these sleds. Gets in, gets down, in control of the sled while Christian is powering on. And so they didn't have the dramas as the track narrowed out of the drive lines, but here, little tap coming out of the Kreisel, and see what an effect it has. Down towards the end again, compounding that with the issue at corner 13, and that's just before we start going uphill again. Final sled is our Olympic champion, Francesco Friedrich. First race on this track for his brakeman Alexander Schuller. 5:05 getaway, very strong indeed. Only Friedrich, only Lochner and Fleischhauer were faster. Ooh, little tap from front. 400s behind our world champion. So this is the battle of world champion and Olympic champion. $1100s back. Still in second place. Mickey Vogt is 4500s back. Don't expect Francesco to fall behind him. Second best speed, 1:19.0. Hansi was 1:19.7, clean out of the Kreisel. Here goes, still second best speed, 1:25.5, still a kilometre an hour down. So he will be in second place unless he wrecks it in the final corner. And taps the wall, 3200s back, 59.50. Candy Barr and the boys watching there, 59.50. Okay, so the first heat led by Johannes Lochner, with Francesco Friedrich in second place. There's that little double tap early on. That's 2 to 3, and then again, that tap on the wall just before you drop down into 14 leaves you hung up on the wall on the outside as well. So, a couple of errors to tidy up. Francesco twice, but 3200s, that's a ways back. Alexander Schuller, his brakeman, this is his 21st two-man World Cup. He has 20 medals. Only once off the podium in a two-man sled. But our first heat leader is Johannes Lochner, with Georg Fleischhauer behind him, the fastest start. They had the top speed all the way down the track, and it is perhaps no surprise, given that they accelerated away from the line faster than anybody else and held their speed higher than anybody else all the way down. They are our first heat leaders. Well, so there you go. That's the way it looks. Hansi Lochner by 3200s from Francesco Friedrich, Mickey Vogt in third, and then the logjam, Cedric Follador in fourth, 400s ahead of Lee Chun-jan, Patrick Baumgartner and Seaman Friedley. 700s behind them, Sun Kai-chi. 200s behind him is Emil Tsipoulis, and then only 500s behind him is Jakobs Kalender, and then 800s back, Marcus Treichel. And we often make 800 sound like a lifetime. That is the blink of an eye. So that is it for the first of our 2 heats of the two-man bobsleigh World Cup season opener. Sleds will be back on ice at 11:30 local, which is 03:30 Greenwich Mean Time. That's 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Wherever you are, join us for that, please. Let's see if France or Hans comes out on top.